Hey guys, in this video we're going to be starting 8C.2. Our mastery learning objective is I can find the circumference and the area of a circle. So the first definition we have here is, well, what is circumference? Circumference is the distance around the circle. So kind of think of like the outline. What is the distance around the circle? Our formula for finding circumference, C represents circumference, and that's going to equal 2 times pi times r. And keep in mind that the r represents radius. Remember? So in parentheses here, I'm going to say r equals radius. Alright, so first example here. It says that we have, we see this radius. We know it's the radius because this is half the circle. So we do know that our r is going to equal 12. All we have to do then is go ahead and just substitute into our equation. Well, it says find the circumference of each circle. Keep your answers in terms of pi. So equation is 2 times pi times our radius. So what do we know? Well, I'm going to bring the 2 down. I'm going to also bring the pi down. Not going to change that either. But what I am going to do is I'm going to take this 12 and I am going to substitute it in for my r. Now the directions told us to keep this in terms of pi. So what that means is that if you need your calculator, the only thing that you are going to be multiplying are going to be like those coefficients, those numbers. So again, in your calculator, I'm not going to do the 2 and the pi and all of that. I'm only going to do the 2 times my 12, which would give me 24. Now, keep in mind that we only multiplied the numbers, which means this pi has to get brought down in my answer. Don't forget about it. And then we put our units on there. Distance around, this is measured in feet, so my circumference around my circle is 24 pi feet. All right. Looking at the next example here, we have another circle. It is also given to us that we have our radius. And again, I know it's the radius because it's half the circle. So we do know that our r is going to equal 8. So substitute what we know. So start off with our formula. Circumference equals 2 pi times r. I know I'm going to rewrite that 2 pi. My radius is 8. And again, the only numbers I'm multiplying are those coefficients. So 2 times 8 is 16. Don't forget to bring my pi. You're kind of treating it like a variable, like our x or y's if you have something like that. So there's nothing you're going to do. Please do not multiply using that pi button because it tells you to keep your answers in terms of pi. So again, add our units on here, which was meters. And you are good to move on to the next question. Alright, next one we have here. I'm going to switch up my color just so you can see what I'm writing better. This time, we do not have our radius. We actually have the diameter. Diameter goes all the way across. So our diameter is 20, which means our radius has to be half of that, right? Our radius is going to be whatever 20 divided by 2 is, which is 10. So that is our radius because, again, I only want half of our circle. I do not want the full distance from one end to the other. So when I use my formula here, 2 pi r, I'm going to substitute my radius, which we just said was 10. And then I'm going to multiply my 2 and my 10, which is 20 pi. My units were in yards. Alright, next one over here, we see that our diameter is 34. So half of 34 is 17. So our radius is going to be 17. Again, so you only want half of that circle, or half of that diameter, I'm sorry. Go ahead and substitute into our equation. So circumference equals 2 pi r. So therefore, 2 pi times 17. What you notice is that 2 times 17 is the same as just saying the diameter, right? So 34 pi, and this was in feet. And that is the distance around my circle. Okay? Next couple of questions here are going to be talking about the area. Now, area is a little bit different than circumference because area is talking about the amount of space inside of a circle. So let me switch up my color here. And I kind of wrote over this. But this is the amount of space inside a circle. I do apologize for me kind of using the space. Our formula, and since it's area, you're going to say A. And the area of a circle is going to be pi times r, which r still represents radius. And then you're going to square that radius. All right, so that's what we're going to start off with. Always start off with, well, do you have the radius? Yes, I have the radius. My r is 12. So I just find my area, and again, it tells me to keep my answers in terms of pi. So therefore, A is going to equal pi r squared. Bring down my pi. My radius is 12, and I'm going to square it. Remember that the square means 12 times 12, not 12 times 2. So if you need your calculator, you can type in 12, and then you click on that x squared button. You could also do 12, and if you want to raise it, and then type in 2. Either answer is correct. Sometimes it's easier to just use the squared because that's the function that we are using. So therefore, our area is going to be 144 pi. Now, one thing to remember is that units for area are squared. So I'm going to have feet squared here. Different than circumference. Circumference is just the distance around. Area, you need to square those units. Next example, we have my radius is right here, which is 8. So pi r squared, pi times 8 squared. 8 squared is 64. So therefore 64 pi, what were my units? Meters squared. Okay. Last two examples here. We have my diameter of 20, so my radius is only 10, right? We only need half of it. So area is going to be pi r squared, pi times 10 squared. 10 squared is 100, right? 10 times 10. Pi yards squared. Please don't forget those units squared on the end of our areas. Last one here. Our radius would be 17, right? You take half of 34. So this is pi r squared, which is 17 squared. I don't know what 17 squared is, so 17 squared is 289. So 289 pi goes after that. My units were in feet, so feet squared. Okay, that brings us to the end of this video. Go ahead and work on the activity. Good luck.